Thank you for coming on today to How Did You Find Out podcast. Today I have my new friend, Alex Montoya. He is an author, speaker, and just an incredible human being. We had the pleasure of meeting through my cousin Esty post Padre game, and had a couple of minutes to kind of share his story, and I felt very inspired by it. So Alex, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me on here. I'm a huge fan of the show and huge fan of everything you guys are doing. So I'm very honored to be here today.
Thank you. And I want to kind of just start from a little bit from the beginning as far as your incredible story. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about you?
Sure. Thank you so much. Well, very blessed to be here. And as you mentioned, I am a writer, speaker, podcaster as well, and writing consultant. But my journey really began really from the moment I was born, in terms of kind of the depth and significance of my story. I was born in Medellín, Colombia, so I'm an immigrant. But the very first moment that I was born, my parents, who already had a son and a daughter, received quite a surprise, because the doctors informed them that their new son had a birth defect and would be rendered without 3 of my limbs. So I was born missing both of my arms and my right leg. And that was quite a shock to my family. But right away, my parents just kind of spontaneously made the decision that I wasn't going to be helpless, or they weren't going to kind of listen to the doctors' predictions of doom and gloom, and they were going to make sure that I was loved and that I lived a very productive life. Because that wasn't anything that kids with disabilities born in Colombia in the 1970s really did. And they were determined to make that a different path for me.
That's amazing that your parents went ahead and it's almost like you were brought into this world, and already that foundation was you're going to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, and I certainly believe that, and certainly a few years later, when I would kind of learn my story, I learned how my mother very quickly rejected the premise that this kid's not going to do anything, or the cultural belief that was in existence at the time that if your child was born with a disability, that was a punishment from God. That your family must have sin in their past, and so therefore this was God's punishment. And neither of my parents were particularly religious people, so it wasn't really kind of any part of their background, but they definitely believed in a good God and a merciful God, and they said, no, we reject that just doesn't sound right to us. And we really believe that this child is a gift, and he certainly has severe challenges, and we don't know what we're going to do, because at the time, if you were born with a disability in Colombia, or just acquired a disability, you couldn't go to school. You weren't allowed to kind of have dreams and goals and a career. So you really were taken care of by your family the whole way. And some of my very few memories of Colombia, because I came to the U.S. when I was 4, was seeing other kids with disabilities, and they were just kind of shuttered away at home. And their families just kind of, hid them. Some of them out of shame because of that cultural belief, and some of them just out of practicality. They just said, "Well, we're going to have to take care of our kid." And my parents told me years later, we didn't know what we were going to do. But we just rejected the premise that somehow this was bad, or that God made a mistake, and we were just gonna love on you, but also give tough love in a sense. And I do remember this, basically telling you that there are things you're gonna have to learn to do on your own, and we'll help you to help yourself. And I think that mindset instilled in me from the time I was a baby, a toddler, really kind of strengthened me all the way through.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe that parents that have children with disabilities, it's definitely not a punishment. I feel like God gives you children for a reason. He knows that you can handle it. Actually, fun fact, I was actually born dead. I had the umbilical cord wrapped around me 8 times.
Wow.
So I had 0 oxygen when I was born. And actually, they had told my mom I was gonna. They in Spanish they call it Mongola, which is like slang. So essentially, that I was gonna have a disability because there was literally no oxygen. I mean, I was dead essentially.
Wow.
So. And I do remember my mom telling me that story and her saying like, Mongola, my ass is like pretty much like, that's not going to happen. Like, and not to toot my own horn, but I'm like, out of my sisters on my mom's side, it's like, I'm the most relentless one. So I think that when you come into this world with challenges already up against you, you just like, you double down.
Absolutely.
And you don't even know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then you mentioned that you came to the States when you were 4. So tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, it was kind of a miraculous story. So my mother came from a large family, and one of her sisters lived in California and was married, had kids. And one day, my uncle, my tío, he bumped into a gentleman as my uncle worked as a security guard, and when during the week was a United States Marine, and he noticed this gentleman was wearing kind of a funny hat that was not like a baseball cap. It was in the shape of almost kind of like a cylinder and had a tassel. And the two of them just actually met on a smoke break.
Wow.
And my uncle asked, so tell me about your funny looking hat there. And he says, well, this is called a Fez, and I'm a Shriner. And the Shriners are a fraternal organization that actually runs a series of hospitals here in the United States. And this was in the Bay Area. And he says, we take care of kids from all over the world. And if they either have orthopedic needs or are burn victims, we bring them to the U.S. for free, and we take care of them. And I think my uncle just about choked on his cigarette because he was just like stunned that this moment was happening.
Right.
And he says, well, I've got a nephew down in Medellín, Colombia, and his family doesn't know what to do with him. Is there any way you can help? And so arrangements were made for me to visit the U.S. When I was 2 years old and go to a Shriners clinic. And they evaluated me in San Francisco, and they said, yeah, he has kind of enough limb residual that he could wear prosthetics, and we would need to do a couple surgeries to kind of get the bone structure right, but he's a perfect candidate for prosthetics. And just like that, my whole life changed. And so it was very quickly decided that it would be far too expensive because I come from a working class family, and it was just a big ask to have me fly back and forth for these medical appointments and for these needs. So my aunt and uncle decided that they would take me in and have me be a part of their family. At that point, my uncle had gotten stationed in San Diego. So we moved to beautiful San Diego right when I turned 4.
Wow.
And this became my new hometown and my new city, my new country.
Yeah.
So I left my family in Colombia to move in with what I call my second family,
Right.
my tia, my tío, and their kids, and their kids basically became siblings to me.
Siblings.
And at the time, I did not comprehend what was going on. I just thought, okay, I'm moving. This is fun. This is great. This is wild. But I didn't realize the huge sacrifice everyone else around me made. My family here in the States to take me in and have another mouth to feed, and have that mouth be, someone with quite a few considerations. And then my family in Colombia, they were basically forfeiting the right to see me grow up, because they knew that I was going to have more opportunity here in the U.S.
Right. And not to mention yours too. I mean, at any point, like maybe when you were an adolescent or, late teen or something, did you find yourself with some emotional challenges given that your family was in Colombia and you're here with your second family?
Yeah, I quickly realized that I'm definitely in a very different space because I only spoke Spanish at that point. So I saw right away Esta gente no habla en español. They don't speak Spanish, so I
Yeah.
better learn whatever they're speaking.
Yeah.
And quickly learned English, and then received my prosthetics and had to learn those. And I quickly realized, and I talk about this a lot, Alba. It gave me the understanding, and I really try to convey this to as many people as possible. The feeling of what it's like to walk into a room and be the only person of your group in that room, and what that feels like. And I quickly realized that, okay, I'm obviously the only kid here that can step in anywhere, and my arms don't look like yours, and my leg doesn't look like yours. And oh, by the way, everyone is staring at me, and people are pointing and whispering, and it's very clear that I'm different from the crowd. And I really owe a huge debt of gratitude to my second set of parents, my tia and tío, because they very quickly said, you are no different than anyone else. You are exactly the same as everyone. You're just a normal kid, but you're going to have an extra burden on you. And that is, you need to be the nicest, friendliest person in the world. And I remember my uncle used his exact words. He said, I want you to take that hook and stick it out there and shake every person's hand that you meet, because he knew people were going to be standoffish. And he knew that people weren't going to quite know how to react to me and what to say, and if they could ask questions, and if they could, inquire about certain things. And he's like, I want you to make everybody you come across feel welcome. And certainly as the years went on and I entered adolescence and teenagehood, that did become more challenging, because, of course, as a kid, all you want to do is fit in.
Right.
And it quickly showed me, I quickly saw that I definitely didn't fit in as quickly or as naturally as I wanted. It was work. And of course, when you're a preteen, you're worried about how you look, and you're very self-conscious in general, everybody.
Right.
And so I kind of had, triple that effect. And so it was a process. It was a process to really kind of learn to not only accept myself, but love myself, and celebrate, kind of what I had.
Right. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Like you're amazing. Like I can't say that enough. And kind of to share too, like when we met, it was post Padre game.
Yep.
I don't remember if they won. I think they did.
Probably not.
But probably not. Okay. Sorry, Padres.
I kid.
But it was my boyfriend and I, and my sister, my brother-in-law. We kind of crashed your guys' party. You were with my cousin and a couple friends, and you were extremely friendly. And you're absolutely correct. Like how, and I'm gonna be honest, like the approach, because, I like, for me, I'm like, do I shake, your prosthetic, or like how that works, and no, not in any, bad way or anything, but it was really like your energy was just like, you could have been an octopus. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just like full of life, and you're like, come on in, like have a seat, bring more stools. It was like the more the merrier. And that just was like amazing, because not a lot of people are like that. Even your circumstance or not, like people, I'm more cautious of offending people, and you're more like, ask the questions, feel free, and that's very welcoming, and it just creates that very safe place where, because curiosity is a big thing. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Because that's you're just very brave.
Thank you. Can I tell a very quick story related to that? So my first day of school, first of all, my family had quite a surprise when we came to San Diego, and I was going through all the things that a kid, does to get enrolled in school and all that. And we were surprised to learn that as late as 1980, which was when I was 6 years old, schools in San Diego kept disabled kids segregated from non-disabled kids. And given that we had kind of left that overall belief in Colombia, or so we thought.
Right.
We were pretty shocked to learn that it wasn't a whole lot different in the States.
Yeah.
And my family really fought and advocated for me to be in a regular education campus.
Right.
Because they were like, this kid has severe challenges, but from the neck up, he's just a normal kid. He
Right.
needs to be, his brain needs to be fed like everybody else's. So I got into school, but same thing, just as I described. Kids pointed, even teachers pointed. Adults kind of looked at me, and no one really knew, what to make of me. And I made that first day two very good friends who are good friends to this day, and they quickly saw my prosthetic arms, and they noticed that because this is kind of a very similar model to what I wore as a kid. Just a few kind of advancements as the years have gone on. They saw that in my elbow area that it's hollowed out. So I have nothing in there whatsoever. And one of my childhood friends said, hey, I've got an idea. We've got a bunch of candy we want to take into class, but we're going to get into trouble if we do. Can we use your arms?
Oh my gosh.
And I was just looking to make friends. So I was like, yeah.
Yeah, stash them in.
Such a rad idea. And so they stuffed my arms with candy.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, look. Now, the one thing that you can't do is you can't make noise in class. Like, that's going to bust our whole plan.
Yeah.
And so the entire day, my teacher would ask questions, and I knew the answer, and I wanted to just, say
Raise
something
your
so
arm,
badly,
yeah.
but I knew not to. And then by the end of the day, I had totally forgotten. I was totally, just forgetting the plan. And so she asked a very basic question. And I think it was probably related to math, because if there's actually a math question that I know, then I'm going to definitely raise my hand, because I'm not good at math. And so she asked the question. I quickly raised my arm, and all the candies just fell out. And I looked around, and the whole class was like, oh! And we all got in trouble. And
no.
Friendship was born.
And a friendship was born, and a life of crime.
Yeah.
And
bring on the Skittles.
Yes, exactly. We got Skittles, Snickers, good
Oh my gosh.
and my teacher sat me down, and she said, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "I was just trying to make friends."
Yeah.
And she said, "Okay, well, I want you to know that it's good that you were there for your classmates, and it's good that they befriended you. But I want you to know something, Alex. People are going to be friends with you because of who you are. And, they're probably going to be very curious about your arms, and they're going to ask questions. Let them, and encourage them to ask questions. But then after that, it's going to be you. It's going to be whoever you are as a person."
Right.
And that really stuck with me. And it showed me, number one, that I really did need to be as encouraging as possible of people who just naturally had questions. I mean, if I had 2 arms, 2 legs, and I saw somebody walk in and look like me, I would be curious.
Right.
That's just human nature. Something very different than from what you see.
Yeah.
And the more that you answer people's questions, 99.9% of the time, they're going to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they go on to, whoever you are as a person. But I actually went on and wrote a children's book about that incident.
Oh my gosh.
Because I felt
What's the name of the book?
So the name of the book, thank you for asking, is Alex Spills the Candy. And it's one of 2 children's books that I've written.
Is it on Amazon or anything?
It is on Amazon.
Okay.
So I have an Amazon author page.
Okay.
And I am very blessed to say that I have written a total of 12 books, with 1 coming. And 2 of them are children's books, because I realized as time went on that the education really begins very young.
Yes.
And that the most curious and honest people in the whole world are kids.
Kids. Oh yeah, they keep you humble for sure. Oh my gosh.
They keep you humble. They'll ask anything. And the biggest deterrence to that can sometimes be parents.
Yeah.
And they mean well, because they don't want their kid to say something embarrassing or to offend somebody.
Yes.
And so I've had more kids kind of, want to ask me a question and get shushed away. And I'll say, no, like, let them ask a question. And, and then, like I said, once you ask that question or answer that question, they're totally satisfied. But I realized that by creating a book, it could kind of reach more people.
Right.
and begin that learning process sooner.
Right. And a little bit is speaking about books. So you have a new project that's coming up.
I do. So, as I say, I'm proud to be a writer overall. I've known since I was 10 years old, and it was
Mhm.
actually a teacher that called it out and
Mhm.
said, "You have quite a gift for communication. You never shut up, and you talk to all the girls in class, but you're also probably our best writer in class. I
Wow.
want you to pursue that as a career."
Mm.
And a light bulb just popped over my head, and I had never thought of that as a possibility or as a career idea. And I said, "Yeah, write. You mean people write books and do it as a job? I would love to do that." And so published my first book in 2008. And that was called Swinging for the Fences. At the time, I actually worked in the corporate office for the Padres, so
Mhm.
I kind of wanted a little baseball tie-in.
Mhm.
And I've since written several books kind of related to my life and to my story and just encouraging people to move forward. And then two children's books on top of that. And then I've ghostwritten two books for others where I've taken their story and kind of helped them convey it. But if people go on Amazon and they just punch in Alex Montoya books, they'll see all my books listed there, including one that I have coming out, national release date of March 1st,
Okay.
which is called Welcome to Paradise.
Mhm.
And it is a fiction novel, and it's about a football team in a fictional city, but it's not about football. It's about kind of us as a society
Mhm.
and just things that I have observed. I'm a huge sports fan, and so I kind of see the good and the bad of sports and sports fandom. And so this story is kind of about who we are as a society, as a culture. But I think people will be entertained by it. And if they want to receive it at a discount, just reach me before March 1st.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of, one thing I also want to commend you on is that Alex goes to the gym. And so, you guys, like, there's literally no excuse to move your body. And when I saw the picture of Alex on his Instagram and you sent it to me as well, it was
Yeah.
just like, there's like my point is that your discipline and your motivation is so inspirational. Like, literally, there's times where I don't want to get out of bed, but I'm like, your feelings don't matter. You still have to show up.
Sure.
So I appreciate that because, you're doing it like anybody can, and it's
Yeah.
just like that glimpse of like, get your ass up
Yeah.
and go to the fucking gym or do something productive,
Oh,
move
yeah.
your body,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you're inspiring others in more ways than you think
Thank you.
is my point.
Thank you.
And I very much appreciate that.
Thank
So
you.
can you kind of give us like a day in your life, kind of like what that looks like for you?
Sure, sure. Well, related to the exercise, I mean, my greatest motivation is my faith, and I know that the kind of my favorite saying or belief is you need to focus on what you have and not on what you're missing. And whereas the world might look at me and say, "Oh, that guy's missing three limbs," I look at it as God gave me three prosthetic limbs to be able to literally move around. Like, I literally could not do anything unless my prosthetic limbs are on me. And that really kind of feeds into just a bigger belief that in life, you need to focus on what you have and not on what you're missing, because it's so easy to focus on, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough clout, I don't have enough status, I don't have enough friends. Like, the world almost teaches you or trains you to focus on all the things that you're missing or the things that you think you're missing.
Right.
But by shifting it really to a gratitude mindset, you really focus on all the things that you do have. And when you focus on that, it just opens up a whole world of exploration. So probably when I was about 18, I think I had just entered college. A friend, asked me, "Can you lift weights?" And I just kind of, naturally thought of, people picking up weights and doing things like that. And I said, no, of course not. How would I lift weights? And my friend said, well, there's machines where all you do is push and pull and just kind of, offer resistance, and those work just as well as free weights. And so I tried it and I fell in love with it. And I said, okay, I love to eat. I love to eat tacos. So I better get an exercise regimen into my life.
Yeah.
And it's become a major passion of mine. And I just really believe that when people focus on what they have and not on what they're missing, it might take a bit of creativity to do certain activities, but they can do it if it's something that you can imagine and you can just envision. It can be done. And that's something I do take in with me, all day, every day. It would be very easy to wake up each day and be like, man, boy, life is tough and life isn't fair. I only have one limb. Like, this is just not right. But if I did that, I wouldn't get out of bed, and B, I would be missing so much.
Yeah.
And that mindset was really instilled in me as a kid. And so many of the things back then still translate to today. So I do have a helper that is paid for by the state. Comes in and helps me every morning, and basically helps me kind of get ready for the day. She helps me to get dressed and helps me with cleaning and meal prep, and just basically gets me ready. And it just kind of shows that for all of us, we all need assistance in some sort of way. We all need support
Absolutely.
in some kind of way, and that's my support. That's my need, is just help me get set up.
Right.
I'll do what I can, but if you kind of help me, finish off the other things, then we can go.
Right.
And so what I do is I basically get set up for the day. I run my own business, and motivational communications, which is my writing and my speaking and my writing consulting, and work from home, but also am prepared for if I need to leave my home office for a business meeting, or I need to go to a networking event, or I just want to go somewhere fun. So I just really try to take advantage of the help that I get in terms of being ready for the day, and whatever I have to do, whether it's business related or just something fun. Once I have my assistants and I got all the things taken care of, I kind of come from the mindset of, okay, I got what I need and let's go.
Let's go. One thing that when we spoke, you mentioned something that that was very powerful that I took in, and you're 100% right. You said we all have a disability. It's just that yours are visible.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit more about that.
It's very true. So first of all, becoming a person with a disability is the only group that someone can join immediately. And certainly not to be morbid or anything like that, but life can change in an instant.
Yeah, in a blink.
You can become disabled in a snap. And but even if that doesn't happen, even if it's somebody like me who was born with their disability, it really became evident to me that certainly my disability is very evident and very physical and very visible. But everyone has a disability. Everyone has a challenge. Some are just not visible to the world. And that might be trauma that they face. That might be depression. It might be any sort of mental health challenges, anxiety. We all have it. And it's something that we all carry with us. It's just a matter of how you manage it, and how you deal with it instead of letting it deal with you, and letting it overtake your life to where it's stopping you and not letting you enjoy life.
Right.
And so I really try to emphasize to people that all of us need assistance, all of us need compassion, all of us need empathy for that very reason. Even if someone appears like they've got it all together and their life is perfect,
they don't.
They don't, and they have a disability that you just can't see.
Right.
And it requires kindness and empathy on all of our parts, but also self love, and to realize that even if a person feels like, man, I've got all my limbs, and I've got all my faculties, and I've got all my thoughts, and I should be doing more in life, to also be willing to kind of take stock of what challenges you do have, and figure out, okay, how can I deal with this, and just come out better.
Right. No, we all face something, and I always say things happen for us, not to us, because
Yes.
it's all about outlook, right? Thanks for tuning in to How Did You Find Out? Like and subscribe and share, and we'll catch you next time.